What's up guys, back again with another video today. We're going to be talking about what to do if you get a vocal and it's just a single vocal, like no doubles, ad-libs, harmonies, anything. Or maybe even you're just working in the studio with a vocalist and you just forget to record harmonies and you go up and reload the session later and you're like, oh shit, I forgot to record harmonies. What are you going to do? Well, first of all, obviously rule number one is always ask for doubles, at least 4. Ask for doubles, ask for harmonies, and ask for ad-libs with every single vocalist you work with and press them. Like, make sure they do that until they send it to you. Like, keep asking them because this will save you a lot of time and trouble. However, sometimes you just can't get it done. Sometimes you just gotta work with what you got, work with that single vocal. And I'm gonna show you how you can actually create vocal harmonies from scratch from a single vocal and make it sound very convincing and very real. So even if this happens to you, you don't have to get stuck and you can find creative solutions. So without further ado, let's get into it. What's up guys? So we are here and we are inside the session for Weird Like Me featuring Carrie Kathleen that I just released with her. Go check that out. But so we're in here in the session, right? And we got some vocals here. So I'm gonna just show you guys real quick actually the importance of why you need to ask for doubles and harmonies, right? Because I'm gonna show you just the difference right now. So this is the lead vocal that we recorded for the hook, right? Just a solo.
Pull me up, can we be friends? Are you weird like me?
All right, so it sounds good on its own, but now we also recorded 4 doubles because I specifically asked her to in the session. So we got 4 doubles here, panned left and right. They're separate recordings. And this is what it sounds like with the doubles.
Pull me up, can we be friends? Are you weird like me?
So as you can see, obviously it immediately thickens up the texture and makes it just sound a lot more full. So definitely want to do that if you have the opportunity to. Definitely record a whole bunch of doubles, different takes, and you can pan them and just get that nice thick vocal texture. That's what we want to start out with. Now, in terms of harmonies, so I remember when we were in this session trying to think of harmonies for this hook melody, and we came up with this one, which we recorded for the first part of the hook, which sounds like this.
Pull me up, can we be friends?
Which sounds pretty good, right? Like we got that one pretty much spot on. But also what we forgot to do was to record a harmony, or either we forgot or we just couldn't think of one that goes with the second part of the hook, the Are You Weird Like Me part. So all we had was just this harmony.
Pull me up, can we be friends? Are you weird like me?
And then no harmonies on the second part, which sounded a little bit weird. So, Carrie and I kind of live far apart and it's hard for us to get in the studio. So, and she's busy, obviously she works, other jobs and stuff, and it's hard to get in the studio together sometimes. So after we had the session, I was working on it and I realized we never recorded the harmony for the second part of the hook. So I had to, find a creative solution to try and address this problem, because it would just sound weird if there was just a harmony for this part and nothing else. Like I just felt like the second part needed a harmony as well. So what I did was, and I'm going to show you how you can do this at home. Basically, I just took this part of the hook that we didn't record the harmony for, copied it and put it on a new track. Right? So come down here, put it on a new track, and obviously make sure it's lined up with the original. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And so, but the thing you have to be worried about when you're making harmonies from scratch and using a duplicate of the vocal that's already there is that you run into something called phasing issues. And without getting too much into the details of that right now, basically what happens when you have 2 identical things playing on top of each other at the exact same time, they create a very unpleasant sound called phasing, which I'll show you actually right now, because I just copied that down, and I'll just solo the lead and this one so you can hear.
Are you weird like me?
You hear that weird effect? Like, let me just play you the that part with just the lead on its own.
Are you here like me?
And now with the duplicate,
Are you here like me?
you see how it has that harsh and very shrill and unpleasant sound with the duplicate on top of it. That's because of phasing. It's because there are two of the exact same waveforms playing at the exact same time, and that creates something called phase cancellation. And it's just basically something that you definitely want to avoid. That's why you always record doubles as separate takes rather than just duplicating the same track over and over again, because no two vocal performances are ever going to be the same. So they're not going to be exactly the same. So you avoid phasing issues like that by recording different takes. So obviously you would want to do that with the harmonies too, but in this case we had to work with what we got. So I'm going to show you how to avoid the phasing issues in a minute, but first we got to make these harmonies, right? So get out Melodyne, and if you haven't worked with Melodyne before, it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I'll show you the basics right now. But so first of all, you're gonna import the vocals into Melodyne by hitting transfer over here and press play.
Are you here like me?
So now we got this in here, and
Are you here like me?
so these are the notes that are highlighted right here. This is the notes that she's singing. So when it comes to harmonies, usually you want to start with thirds and fifths, right? So I know that the key of this song is in F minor, and this is starting on an A flat. So I think first thing that I'm gonna try is to just transpose this whole thing down by a third and see what that sounds like, and go from there.
Are you here like me?
Oof, okay, that's definitely not it. All right, maybe a fifth.
Are you here like me?
All right, I think I like the first part, how this part sounds, but this second part isn't it. So honestly, there's no technique with this. Like, just I would just say start with thirds and fifths and mess around with it until you find something that works. And also, don't be afraid if it sounds weird on its own. Like, it doesn't matter how it sounds on its own. The end of the day is with harmonies, you have the liberty to really mess around with it. It's all about how it sounds in the bigger picture and in context with the lead vocal. So
Are you here like me?
okay, that's sounding better. Maybe if I just
Are you here? Are you here like me? Are you here like me?
also, a quick tip with Melodyne, if you click this button and then you double click on the notes, it'll automatically move it into the center of the note that it's on, so that it'll be like the exact pitch that you want. Sometimes you may not want that because you kind of want to mess around with it, like in between pitches. And like with this, like this is kind of like a like it's a scoopy note, so you know, be aware of that. And if it's like a note that's changing a lot, you don't want to do this method where you snap it onto the note. Just FYI.
Are you here like me?
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. Let's hear it in context now with all the vocals.
Are you here like me?
Cool. So now I like how that sounds. So now I'm gonna exit Melodyne. I'm gonna freeze and flatten this track. So to commit it, and we're gonna flatten it. So now that the Melodyne's committed,
Are you here like me?
and like honestly, this harmony, this is a reason why you should try this out, because I guarantee you in the studio we would have never thought of this harmony. Like listen to just how this sounds on its own.
Are you here like me?
Like Carrie and I would have never have thought to do a harmony like that, because it sounds honestly awful on its own. If I'm being completely honest, but in the context is all that matters, right? Like if you just hear it in context with all the rest of the vocals,
Are you here like me?
it sounds great. So you know, don't be afraid to mess around with it. Don't be discouraged about how it sounds on its own. Just listen to everything in context. That's the biggest thing I can give you right now. And so next we got this committed. Well, first of all, let's just throw some auto tune on it, because why not? You can be pretty aggressive with auto tune when it comes to harmonies because they're gonna be mixed in with all the other vocals, right? So like, no, this key is F minor. So just throw that on just to make sure it's completely in tune. And then before I was talking about phasing issues, right? And how do you address that? So even though I've changed the pitch of her vocal, it's still happening at the exact same time. The timing's the same, so the waveform is essentially the same, right? So the phasing issues are still going to be there. How you combat that when you're working with a duplicate vocal is I like to use this thing called microshift. You can also use Ableton stock like delay compensation. If you hit this D right down here, you can shift things by milliseconds. But I like to do it with microshift, this plugin by Soundtoys. And let me show you guys. Basically, you can shift things by even less than a millisecond, which is ultimately what you want. So in microshift, I'm gonna put the detune all the way to the minimum because I already tuned it how I want it. And then I'm just gonna play with the delay so it sounds not like right on top of the main vocal.
Are you like me?
So right now when it's all the way up, they're like, first they were like on top of each other, now they're shifted like a lot. So we want that middle ground, right? So we want it not shifted all the way so that you can hear the differences in timing, but shifted enough so that they're not phasing and canceling out anymore, right? So
Are you like me? Are you like me? Are you like me?
yeah, so I think around there sounds good. So mess around with it and just make sure that you delay it at least a little bit so that you don't get the phasing issues. And that's about it, guys. Alright guys, so that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Check out my channel for more tips and subscribe. And check out my song with Carrie Kathleen as well, Weird Like Me. Out now in stores, streaming. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.